our safe space for
Oh.
creatives, artists, entrepreneurs, brands, community members. This is a safe space for you to come, connect, reflect, turn up,
Whoop, whoop.
relax, whatever that looks like for you in this moment. We thank you for joining us. Tonight we have a stellar group of people on this comfy couch. Can we get into this couch though?
Mm-hmm.
Look, let's melt
Very
into
cushy.
it. Yes. We have an amazing panel of artists tonight. Definitely thank everyone for joining us. We are streaming live from Atlanta, representing on the sweater. What does the sweater say?
Whoop, whoop.
That influences everything.
I don't know the camera.
How you pronounce it?
Influences.
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Influences
Atlanta.
everything. I'm gonna apologize, Brooklyn girl here, so the accent might be a little thick, but the Atlanta love and culture and the art is booming here, and I'm just happy to be a part of this and have four amazing artists joining us for tonight. So for those who don't know, let's get started. Introduce yourself to our lovely audience, everyone joining us online. Let's start with this gorgeous lady
Thank you.
here. Tell us a little bit about who you are
Yeah.
and what you do.
So, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. I have been a big fan of ComfiArt for quite some time. So, I'm really thrilled to get the opportunity to just share today. I'm Mariam Moma. I'm a visual artist with a current core focus on collage art. All of my work is hand cut. I'm Tanzanian Nigerian from a family of seven. Really exciting times. I have a twin brother. I'm 2 minutes older. None of you forget that. I'm 2 minutes older. But been a really great, gratifying, and really exciting experience to create, to thrive, and to live in Atlanta. So thank you for having me today.
Yes, come on. Older twin?
Yeah, the oldest.
Don't
Yeah.
you forget it. Love and Miriam, beautiful to have you join us tonight.
Thank you.
Next up, can we get into the details? Camera, I don't know if you can see it, but these loafers, everything. Look, everything.
Shop.
Satchel, introduce yourself to everyone.
My name is Satchel Jester, and I always lead with I am an Atlanta native.
Woo.
I think that explains why I am what I am. I am a journalist by trade. I am an editor. I have contributed my words to Uptown Magazine, Upscale Magazine, Essence, Hollywood Reporter, Vanity Fair. You name it, I've written for the publication. I've also transitioned into nope, I didn't transition. I had my own PR agency for 8 years. So I tread the media line on both sides. And I am now a curator of all things lifestyle. I am tapped by brands to engage, to produce, to introduce people to Atlanta, to make sure people understand what Atlanta culture is at its core and what it's grown to be. I am the ultimate creative and the ultimate consumer. So I think on both sides of the coin. Um, and I'm just a lover of all things expressive and non-traditional as it relates to leaving legacy. So in that space, I operate a couple different ways, but that's the life of it. Yeah.
All right now, Satchel. Born and raised in Atlanta, repping to the fullest. I love it. I love it. Next up, come on now. We got the shades, the comfy pillow. Don't hide. Show some love, Miss Kenya. Let the world know who you are and what do you do.
Well, I'm gonna lead with I am not an Atlanta native.
Oh,
I have been here since 1998, which means that my grandmother has officially kicked me out of Virginia, so I'm stuck here. I do love Atlanta. Atlanta is where I have been my entire adult life, so this is beyond home for me. And I feel like everything I do, I have to rep the town because this is my town. Um, Also, because of that, Atlanta has beyond influenced everything that I do and who I am, and especially being a part of the Atlanta creative community. I think about that. That is like one of my first thoughts when I create and the things that I do, because I don't want to let my city down when I do, put out the great things that I put out, because I put out great things.
Hey.
Claim that.
But my name is Kenya, last name Freeman. I am a designer. I am a women's ready-to-wear fashion designer. I have been creating since college. I have been a business owner for the last almost 10 years, operating by nothing but faith for the last 8. And I do mean that truly. Entrepreneurship is something else, but I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. It has blessed me totally. Fashion has become what I call my ministry, something that my mother has given me. I think when it comes down, I'm one who I believe in operating in your gifts and in the purpose, and my purpose has definitely become. It has definitely become my ministry. It has led to so many different things. I have been blessed to be in all types of spaces that I would never have been in had I not walked in faith and been this fashion designer and called in the thing that I was called to do. I was on Project Runway season 16 in 19, no, 19, in 2018. Was it 2018? I think 2018. And from there, that opened up so many doors for me, and I have been able to work with so many different brands to create my own brand. I currently have a collection with Torrid, which is a plus size brand. I currently also have a collection with Shein, which is an Asian based brand that I have been working with for almost a year. And I am currently working on 15 new styles for them to put out. And I am working on a new collection for my own brand, which is Sylvia Molly. Sylvia is my mother, and Molly is my grandmother. That's where the name comes from. But I am rebranding. I am focusing on women who are sizes 10 to 20, which is a market that is underserved, that a lot of people are not paying a lot of attention to. So I decided to. And I plan on dropping that collection in October 1. So pray for me.
Yeah, exciting.
Pray for me.
That's
So
great.
that's who I am. And that's it. Oh, I like lipstick and glasses.
Listen, same 24 hours in a day, because that lineup sounds amazing. I mean, and I would be remiss to not acknowledge that we're wrapping up March, but it's Women's History Month.
It is.
So shout out to the beautiful women on this panel tonight
Yes.
that
Thank
are
you.
doing the
To
thing.
the women,
And
period.
clap for the ladies.
Yeah.
Yes. Gentlemen, we're here for you too, but it's our month.
The greatest at the end.
Yes, but come on, the one and only Ben. Let the world know who you are. What do you do?
Good evening, everyone. So my name is pronounced Bang.
Okay, corrected.
I am co-founder of a civic-based consultancy. We say civic, but I guess we identify as creatives. Called Atlanta Influences Everything. We were doing consulting and marketing before we came up with the shirt. We were called another company, and then we switched to Atlanta Influence Everything as a company because the shirt was doing so well. And the shirt was kind of created by accident. The saying was, well, I guess ain't nothing by accident to a certain extent, but I was ranting. We were pitching a product, and they didn't cut the marketing budget that they had, the type of money that they spent in LA and New York and Chicago. This was 2015. And in talking to Nike, they didn't understand that Atlanta influenced everything. But I only said it when I found out they didn't understand it and they weren't going to cut the money. This was around the same time everybody was doing the dad, everybody's dad. And knowing the core essence of how it came from this like hyper local Atlanta dance to getting so big, I couldn't believe that Nike didn't feel that Atlanta was a large enough market to spend money in at the time. And so I said, man, Nike they don't understand that we influence everything. My business partner, who was from Brooklyn, he at the time his Brooklyn he ran it through his Brooklyn meter to see if it was legit. And then what he found out was that he left Brooklyn, came to Morehouse, never went back to Brooklyn. And so he was like, damn, there might be a point. So a couple years later, after the sale of the shirt, we started talking about, we had to do a TEDx talk about why Atlanta. And so you can't wing that, you know what I'm saying? And you can't, saying the culture ain't enough to get my mama to buy in all the way or get, so we had to come up with a real reason to why we could justify the statement in the TEDx talk. And so we came across 3 C's of how we justify the statement. Civic, the home of Dr. King, and just the brand ethos of Dr. King. So he's on level with Bob Marley. There's only certain figures where he can do the silhouette kind of, and it's like, okay, that guy. And he's attributed to Atlanta. And so the civil rights movement and all that has come from that. So civic is the first C. The second C, probably the second most recognizable brand in the world behind the Nike check, is the Coca-Cola symbol, which you can make into any language, but keep that font the same. And anywhere people know it's like Coca-Cola. And you have Delta here as well. And we have a strong Metro Atlanta chamber. It's the 3rd largest chamber in the country. And we have just recently Airbnb East Coast Hub, Pandora's office, Microsoft's 2nd largest office outside of their headquarters in Seattle, Google's East Coast Hub. So we are open for business. So from a corporate consumer standpoint, the money is flowing in Atlanta. And then the 3rd C is we the home of Outkast with the K, but the C is for culture. And so Atlanta's culture, and I'm an Atlanta native as well, let me say that, but in trying to make it all encompassing, and not even make it, in order to tell the story of Atlanta, it is all encompassing, especially in terms of Blackness, more recently international, but overall Blackness. So there are Black people here from Queens, from Virginia, from Jackson, Mississippi, Jacksonville, Florida, Oakland, California, and they brought their Black culture, their Black dances, their Black cuisine, their slang from their neighborhoods and where they from, and they brought it to this safe Black place. It's safe to be Black here. Mm-hmm. And so it's like a gumbo in a sense. And I hate New Orleans. I love gumbo though. I hate Saints. I love New Orleans.
Wait a minute.
But yeah, so with that said, the 3 C's, that's how we justify Atlanta. And we don't mean that as any disrespect to anybody else's city. What we hope is that when someone from somewhere else sees the statement, that they, might ponder or push back, and then, you state your reason and why you feel where you from influence everything, which is cool because it's a debate, and it's to have you start looking at your city in a way in which you might not have looked at it before. Right. And so when we say we're a civic-based consultancy, the work we do is if the statement is true that Atlanta influences everything, and we know there's money and influence, like if we would agree to that, then Atlanta shouldn't be number 1 in income inequality, and it shouldn't have a 4% upward mobility rate, meaning if you're born poor in Atlanta, it's a 96% chance that you'll die poor. So somehow the city influencing everything, as much as I love flexing the shirt, I hate it some days because when you get through the cool and you translate it, you cool but you broke. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Which is normally a Black statement that people say about Black people. But Atlanta is so Black, it has Black people problems as a city. And so we try to consult and help the city and small businesses leverage the influence, because without these people here, our business don't go. Like our business is only as dope as these people here and a lot of people in this room. If y'all slack, then what are we selling? You know? Right. So yeah, that's a lot.
Gimmick. That's what you're selling.
And Black, we're not no gimmick. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
What, man?
Listen, we are here for and we are all about exactly what you just said, that authenticity that drives people here, whether you come for a short time or a long time. And this is ultimately why ComfiArt was created. Over 5 years going strong. We have expanded to over 15,000 people in creative communities, brands, entrepreneurs, you name it, connecting them through our 4 pillars, whether that's our partnerships. We're talking big brands and connecting artists to what those partnerships look like. Events like this one in the Comfy Zone, pop-up shops, you name it. We're doing everything from providing community resources. So community is another one of our pillars. And just ultimately love engaging with what this space feels like.
Mm-hmm.
We're not about, there's so many art spaces here in Atlanta, and that's what makes the city beautiful, like you mentioned. But we also have to get to a point where we have those critical conversations about how do we move upward as a creative economy? How do we sustain these creative works? It's cool to see the murals. It's cool to go to your spot in the neighborhoods that everyone mentioned. Oh, they're Instagrammable. But then what happens next? What about the artists who have labored over these things? So I think this is a really good transition. I mean, everybody dropped some brands, some names and partnerships to get into this money conversation right now. I mean, we're talking money and budget and collaborations. Mm-hmm. And what better way to lead this conversation than by starting with the personal experiences that some of you have encountered, whether it's the big partnerships you've mentioned, ideas of things you're working on. Let's just start with where we are and what's been your experience so far. How about you?
Do I start?
How about you, Golden Lady?
Absolutely. I think, I'm humbled by the opportunities that have come my way. I think it's not by chance. I think everyone sitting here, I can say, in preparation for this talk today, I looked you guys up, confess. We've done the work, right? And the work speaks for itself. I think it's important that we humble ourselves to share that we have done the work. That's one. That's important. From a financial perspective, when you work, you eat. And when you work, you generate, you multiply, right? Mm-hmm. So that's important to share. In terms of where I am today, I just said I was thankful. Just yesterday, my art aired on Bel Air S1. Nice. So, there's.
She said it, so it's the elegance for me. My art was just on Bel Air. Like, we're excited about that. Yes.
The piece is called Vote. It features Obama. I designed it on the cusp of the 2022 elections. I also did a mural in the West End in a downtrodden, I would say, space or neighborhood in the city, just to encourage us Black bodies to vote, to get out and vote and make sure that our voices were heard. I thought it was a very important piece. It was a very strenuous, tumultuous time. I had a lot of help from another peer. That's one thing I do love about Atlanta. The artists that I do or am in sync with are very communicative. They're very supportive. So Joe King assisted me on that mural. It was wonderful. It was transient, but I thought it was powerful in the time that it was put up. It was October 2020. And that piece was the central focus of the mural. And the piece itself is called Vote. It features the back of Obama's head and these florals that represent some kind of vulnerability, softness that invites the viewer to take in a little bit more. My work at its core is centered around uplifting the Black body, right? Especially the Black female body. But in this instance, because of the central focus of the piece, I was really trying to empower those communities or those Black bodies in that West End community. Like, here, your voice matters too. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you feel. Whatever the choice, a choice is more powerful than not making a choice, right? And so I used Obama as this beacon of light while he's facing, the image is turned to the back. It's very distinctly identifiable as him. It also features like 3 blue stars for the American flag and the power that we carry as a people, right? While I'm not American, I'm half Nigerian, half Tanzanian. I have to say that I've come into a space where I've tilled the land, I have done the work again, and it's paid off, or it is paying off, right? So when you take control of your situation, you empower yourself, you do the work, the people will come. So at the end of the day, the only reason why I brought up Bel Air S1 is because it took me a while, to get there, to do the work, to show up, to give, right? You have to be in a space of openness to receive as well. And that's something so powerful that I've learned and continue to grow in as an artist.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love
That's
it.
amazing, that growth that you speak of. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things too is like finding your tribe or your support system to
Mhm.
ensure that you can keep continuing to do this work.
Yes.
Anyone else feel like this resonates with you? Can you share one of your experiences?
I think I'll speak on it, especially as I sit here with Kenya. Um, we can go back to doing work with Ford and now Cadillac. I think Bang said a minute ago, if we don't produce a certain caliber of thing, then what are we selling
Mm-hmm.
to represent the city? And I think as creatives, and I'll speak for myself, coming into becoming an entrepreneur and figuring out what my pathway would be to make a way for myself, to make a legacy for myself, to feed myself, to be able to thrive. As a creative, you're sometimes told that it might not be enough to sustain. This might need to be a hustle while you do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Do something while you figure this part out. You need something that's going to get you to. But I've never believed in that. And the moment that I stepped into, because I think at the beginning of it, we all start at a certain level, whether
Mhm.
that's, my entry was event planning, event producing. And it started, of course, with family things. And, you might do some school things. And it starts at this really familiar place that we all know where you might get $500 to help out, or, it might be $1,000 budget all in. And if you can keep 300 out of it, you did good, like that kind of thing. But then it changed, and it didn't change overnight. But what I noticed was, even in talking about networking horizontally and not going out to look for everything, as you do work and as you do good work,
Mm-hmm.
that work speaks for you. And it
Mhm.
becomes a matriculation of sorts that puts you in different rooms, in different conversations, even casually, Bames. Like we were talking to Nike. Like that doesn't happen overnight.
Mhm.
You have to do the work to get a conversation with Nike. I don't know your name, my friend right here. Yeah, you. Wait, you forgot we was friends already? When I just asked you, and I talk in a lot of real life, real time kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So when I just asked you what you did, you told me you designed apparel, t-shirt, and you also said you wrap gifts. I immediately said you need to be able to produce branded wrapping paper for brands that, like, you have to look at what separates you from the next person that picks up scissors and that cuts it and does a beautiful job. Like, what makes me different from going downstairs at Bloomingdale's and pay it? But I'm just saying. So once you start to think, we have to push ourselves as creatives, because you take the gift and then you say, what makes the way I do this gift special? Now I say that because, Kenya, again, like as we've kept working, as you've been designing, as I've been curating, it led us to rooms and conversations with brands like Ford and Cadillac. And the conversation then becomes, what do you need? And that's not a question we can always answer, because as creatives, we ask for a bare minimum, or we sometimes throw a number out that sounds really good to us. Well, I need $1,000 to do this. These are big brands.
Mm-hmm.
These are big brands, and $1,000 is almost a joke when you mention it, especially if your work is worth it. And your work is worth it. That's why you're in the room. Don't be afraid. Do the research.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what these brands produce. Look at what their platforms are. Cadillac is a luxury brand. Luxury is a demographic of its own. So in having conversations with luxury brands, when you've done the work to get there, now your work needs to be good.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be very good, almost impeccable. It needs to be work where they do not feel like the work can be done unless you're doing it. That's what makes you amazing. I always say to everybody, like, what makes your stuff hot?
Mhm.
And when I say high, I don't necessarily like mean in the streets, but even like Bane just saying, and I keep referencing you because you just finished talking, but for all those that thought Atlanta influences everything was a shirt or a hype phrase, it was born out of a conversation about money. That's what makes it even resonate higher. So it means a little more. So I think that's where we first start, and that's where my experience was, because when I stopped feeling like people were doing me a favor and realized that people were approaching me because of the work I was doing, it changed my conversation.
Mhm.
Like
Totally.
Cadillac's not coming to me because they're saying, "Oh, look at this little guy down in Atlanta that can do a cool event." They're saying that guy in Atlanta apparently knows how to get Atlanta into a room. He knows how to tell a story of Atlanta culture. He knows our touch points and how those touch points show up in Atlanta. I know my city.
Mhm.
I know my city. So when I'm telling you what money to spend in my city, I can back it up. Just like we just said, like it's not up for debate. And in those conversations, in me saying what I'll do, what I'll produce in my city that frames your brand, it's evident that I've done my research and my feet are on the ground here, that I know what the people are, that I know how we respond. And that's what they pay top dollar for. They're not paying you just because you can wrap a gift. That's not what it is.
Mhm.
They're paying you for the long game. If I bring her into this room, the people that she brings into this room will then become consumers, customers, believers, all of these things. That's how this goes. So I think that, and I don't even know what the question was. But
Right.
I wanted to. Did you have anything to say?
I did, but if you do, go ahead.
No, no.
You sure? It's funny we talk about money because I always used to be afraid to talk about money,
Mhm.
and I had to get over that pretty quickly. I remember we talk about like working with Ford. My very One of my very first Ford experiences, I only got paid $400, and I remember until I met a mutual friend that we
yeah,
have,
yeah,
and I was invited to do Black Women in Hollywood in
man.
LA, and I had to do 4 dresses. And I was so afraid to give them a number. I thought that if I gave them the number that I wanted, that they would say no. And I wanted it more than I think that they wanted me to be there. And I remember, I think I said like $500 or $600 a dress, and I had to do four. And I had a short window to do those four.
Very
And
short.
I remember our mutual friend said no, and she advocated on my behalf and said, I'm going to ask for way more than that. And to take it further than that, I'm also going to get Essence to shoot you another $1,500 because you're not asking for enough money. And she had to teach me that. And over time, I had to learn what it means to ask for what I feel like I'm worth. And especially with dealing with brand, we're not talking about like another small brand that I would definitely like say, okay, we'll look out for each other. But when you work talking about these large brands that have major $1 million budgets, to be okay with saying, I know that I'm worthy. And especially when you came to me, I didn't come seeking you, you saw my worth. And so to ask for that, and sometimes it still can be tricky, but I'm at the point now where it's like, I know what I'm worth. And if they don't give me what I'm worth, I'm okay with saying, no, I don't want to work with you. And I don't care if it's Obama. I don't care who it is. If I'm not getting paid what I'm worth, I'm out. Because you have, especially when you have the money, and I'll say our counterparts, and I'll leave it at that. I know what you're paying our counterparts. I know what they're getting paid. So why can't me and this little black bald headed girl, why can't she get paid the exact same thing?
Mhm.
Because what happens is you, because what we don't realize is it's all by design. We just talk about that because what that's then going to become is we are all proud to wear these designs of Kenya Mali, a joy, that's a part of their narrative that they get points for recognizing a budding talent that's down in Atlanta or whatever the case may be. So that's a part of their large scheme, and we've asked for $200, and this alone is going to chart them in a whole different place because they sought out the culture. They
Right.
sought out this girl that dresses Black women beautifully, and she only charged $200 to do it. Now we lucked up because we have a mutual friend that says no, but that also speaks to your work. Because when people know your work is good, they'll sidebar from the conference call that you're on. They'll send you a text message and say, "Shut up." No,
Yeah.
that's not it. But we have to be impeccable because we have to work harder because creatives already, and this is could be an argument. We already don't get the same cachet that some people that work 9 to 5s and move up corporate ladders. Like we don't really have a gauge or a system that tells us you're doing well. We don't have a promotion every 6 months. We don't have a bonus. So we're still trying to prove like to our mamas and daddies that I work. I'm not just getting up every day playing around. Like this is a job. So we're already feeling like let me just get the opportunity. But no, your work is your work.
It's true. Like I remember, like even just, I'll say I struggled and hustled way longer than I made any money for myself. And I remember like my mom and my grandma, they will always, even if they see me creating, they would always say, well, that's great, but so-and-so is hiring. You might want to go get that job. And I'm like, but I have a job. It may not be paying, what you guys want me to get, but it's paying me a job. But like to her point, like I stopped taking no. Like I knew long time ago that I was meant to be a designer. I knew that was my calling on this earth. I knew it. But like each and every one of us, nobody knows our calling, our assignment but us. But and I stopped taking no, and when I did, I started because I used to be the real estate agent, and I was the bartender, and I was a manager at a shoe store. And when I was doing these things, all the doors were closed because I wasn't walking in the purpose that I was supposed to. And my last manager, she fired me because I had a fashion show and I didn't come to work. But when I stopped working for other people and I said, okay, God, you now have my attention because you keep firing me from jobs and you keep moving me around. When I tell you the things start happening, so many things start happening far beyond what I could understand, or I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And especially when it comes to faith, so many people believe in what they want, but in my experiences in my life, like nobody can tell me that my God ain't real, because there are too many experiences and situations that I've been put in. I'm still alive to talk about it. I'm still here to tell you guys about it. And I don't know how they happen. I honestly do not know how they happen. The number one question I get all the time is, how did you get a chance to work with Essence? How did you get a chance to work with Ford? How did you get a chance to work with Marie Claire magazine? How did you get on Project Runway? How did you start working with Cheyenne? I don't know. I don't know.
You did
I
the
didn't
work and
call
they
none of
came.
these people. I don't have nobody's phone
Yeah.
numbers. I didn't call them. I got a phone call. I got an email, or I was put in a situation, where they saw me and they reached out to me, and I'm able to walk in that, and I'm thankful for it every single day. I'm thankful for it. And that's why I say it's my ministry, because I will speak it to the mountaintops while I'm here. And I always say like blessings flow from a grateful heart. You know what I'm saying? And even in the worst day, I always try to find a way to have gratitude at some level for just being able to stand here and be an entrepreneur in a very tough, it's a million fashion brands out here, but I'm still able to sustain and take care of me and bring up the next person behind me so that we can all be great. Because I'm an open book. You can ask me anything and I'll tell you. But I don't know any other way to say, but for me, I have no choice but to keep going. I have to keep going so that I can show this person and show this person and show this person, because it's possible. All things are possible if we have faith in it. And for me, I can't stop, because I don't know. I don't have no other skills and talent.
Okay. So to that point, I don't do anything with my hands, and so
Aren't you grateful?
so if you don't do nothing with your hands,
You do a lot with that brain, then, huh?
but like where the money come from? So you either selling snake oil, spitting game, you pimping, or I love black people, man. I love I'm from the West End, specifically H-Rap Brown, like Imam El Amin. And I'm from the Outcast era, the free nigga era. I'm 43, you know. But my schooling in Atlanta specifically was, you know, I got bused across town to Buckhead, so I was Garden Hills, Sutton Middle School, in North Atlanta High School.
North Atlanta,
And, you learn like all of this multicultural stuff early, but being from the West End, just rooted in Blackness. And so very shy when it comes to approaching women, but it was the same with money, like everybody else. And I had help along the way, but was very unhealthily dedicated to something that is a little bigger than me, like driven, like mentally to, so I saw that out of all the sectors, because creators are unprotected just in general, there's no letters by our name. People respect letters by the name. And the letters by the name, you could gather data, but it's tough to get data from creative output unless you intentionally went into the situation to get the data. And the data, that's what matters. That's where the money comes from and the policy. And I speak about policy. I'm not some like policy wonk, but from the Maynard Jackson era, Atlanta didn't become a safe Black place. It just fucking happened. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like there were things done, decisions made, that policy put in place that made it almost protected Blackness, like the Brazilian rainforest. Like you cut them trees down over there, but you can't touch these. It's a problem. So Atlanta, it got to continue to be that way. And this era that we live in, I'm a futurist. So in the Virgil era, a lot of us didn't have mentors, and a lot of us know that and would like to be mentors now, because you can see what it's like when somebody, whether they intended to or not, stand in the gap for you. Yeah. So Virgil, the younger designers coming up behind these folks, and you like even somebody like Hebrew Brantley, certain things, they have their success as Black people in reaching the pantheon that they reaching, they standing in the gap for more of what's to come. And one of the
Jackie Robinsons.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? And we one of the blackest cities in the country.
Yeah.
And so while I could never really spit game for myself and get the money, man, COVID and the disruption of COVID and George Floyd, and while I could never get no money for myself, once the George Floyd shit happened and I saw all the diversity, equity, inclusion dollars,
right?
I love, this is so weird. I'm in yoga trying to do better. But yes, that's what I'm saying. So apparently at times I've loved the ethos of my people, maybe more than I love myself. And I got to pay for that in certain areas. You know what I'm saying? Health-wise, I got kids. Like, it's weird, but I can easily find my people the dollars now that we deserve because the brand. So YouTube say, well, we're doing 250 million to Black content creators. So we in Foot Locker and Champs now because of Foot Locker's 200 million commitment to the Black community. And so you have all of these brands that before George Floyd, it was these stories where you now is really more of an accountability partner. Everybody on here, because their resume is so dope, and you ain't even got to really act huff chest. It's like, shit, I'm just showing up because, you said you had a little $200 million commitment. My name's Satchel, you know what I mean? You can Google me. And I had this, I know she's not here, Melissa Mitchell.
For sure.
A lot of her, sure. And she dope. So it's not to take nothing away from, she getting what was long overdue. And so Pinky, you can see these brands now, they on a white apology tour. And so it's a little easier.
Say it.
I used to be scared to ask them for money, but not when they made the commitment.
It's like,
Right.
Oh, you done showed me you like me. You done hollered at me.
Cousin.
Hey, you done hollered at me. I was shocked.
Action kind of thing? Do you think it's a temporary thing, or do you think it's something that's a fad that's going to wear off once they feel they've done their due diligence to tribute to Black culture, or do you think it's something that they'll continue to sustain?
So when they say like a $200 million commitment, it's over the next 4 to 5 years. So after that, it's kind of like shit,
Right.
But it's all in how the recipient, Kendrick would say, we won't take no handout. You know what I'm saying? We take a hand up. You give me a handout, I'll break that shit.
Yeah.
Give me a hand up. And so some of it is money, some of it is resources. So if it's Microsoft or some brand, Ford, now that $400 with this resume, they'll be done easily gave her a car
Right.
to run her business in and capture the content.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna write that car off, obviously, versus giving her the check, the cost of the car and the check. It's a little bit more paperwork, a little bit more, whatever. But people with the resumes are accountability partners for the Black community. Steve Stout's Tanning of America said me on this a long time ago, but the resume person, because if you don't really got no resume, you still building, then the brand, but you Black with a like ComfiArt, ask Deanna, like ask some of, bless you, some of what has happened. I'm interested. She ain't gonna tell her, she's got some stuff in the stash.
Oh, yeah.
But these brands, so Lululemon, they are asking questions, and we have to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
But no, I get that a lot. Man, they ain't finna do nothing. They said that, but they ain't finna do nothing. I'm like, shit. Did you holler at them folk? How you know? Like, I bet if you holler at them folk, be like, nah, bro, right here, you said. And then you also show them the amount of followers you got on social media. They're gonna be like, okay, these motherfuckers get Twitter fingers real
We
quick.
still want to see impressions.
Yeah.
Being Black is like the new Black.
Yeah. They still want their impressions. They still, it's all a game. And that 14% of the population, in terms of African American, this ain't even our place. We're not even a real race, in my opinion. Like, what is an African American? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So the shit we got to work with is soul foods and shit that really wasn't meant to be eaten. You know what I mean? But we done had to survive some way. And and this is where the blessing is for you, and I'll wrap up here. Not being able to wave any flag during the Caribbean Day Parade. I had friends I was running with, I thought they was like, nah, I'm Guyanese, bro. Damn.
Yeah.
I'm just nigga.
Yeah, I'm just,
You know what I mean?
I'm just from Atlanta, right?
I know plenty niggas in Mobile, Alabama, man. Niggas just, yes sir, boss. I'm just a nigga, bro. You know what I mean? And it's like, who is that guy? But he's not. But that's a real person though.
Yeah.
Like, when you understand the dirty South, there's some similarities between the dirty South and Cape Town and whatever, but similarities, but it ain't. You know what I mean? This the place that lost the Civil War. We the motherfuckers that stayed, and this is some other shit. You know what I'm saying? And so I speak for them people because the last name ain't their last name.
Right.
All other races over here, and they have been wrong tremendously. Mexican, that risk life and limb to get over here. For my Black and brown, my brown brothers and sisters. But like, that last name is yours, and your grandmama recipe, you brought that shit over from Mexico. But a nigga, what's the nigga recipe? You know what I mean? What's the recipe? What's your last name? Who is that? And so there is no connection to nothing. So Kanye said it when he spoke at Oxford. Old Kanye, he was in church going, But all Black people we didn't get in on the tobacco. You know what I'm saying? We were slaves during the tobacco movement. We didn't get in on the oil. So you got some cannabis shit, which you got to hurry to get in on. Or it's this culture that you done created out of nothing that influences the world. So it's in your best bet to figure out how you can monetize that shit. Because the rest of this shit, You just get in where you fit in. You know what I mean? And that's a blessing that you can, but this is ours. So yeah.
Right there when you said monetize it, because there's kind of two folds of tonight's conversation, right? I mean, we identified how we have to, one, look out for each other, use our voice, have communities of support, know our value, our worth, and demand it when it comes to securing these contracts. So we're talking about the money shifting, whether it's coming from the top down or the community within, using their culture to influence everything. The other layer of it, so what do we do when we have the money? The other part of the conversation we're asking about is that transparency when it comes to budgeting, fiscal health. What are some ways that you as creatives see that, okay, now we've got a little money to spend. We might have a blue check or two on social media, we have a little visibility with our work. What is the best ways that we are using the money that we're getting to really move the culture forward? How are we budgeting and preparing for a sustainability in this work? What does that look like to each of you guys? I loaded 1,000,001 questions, but I feel it could resonate for each one of you where you are differently. So what does that look like?
For me, that is a very loaded question because I could go 45 different angles with that one. But